DC folks, and service casualty officers. Welcome to the 2016 National League of Families Vietnam War Annual Meeting Pre-Brief.
Unlike FMU's, this is the National League meeting run by the National League of POW Families. We don't invite media because it's their show, and they normally don't invite media either. I don't know if that's still going to be the case this time. However, we have a couple of outstanding military photographer and videographers here from Hawaii, Sergeant Rodriguez and Senior Airman Ferrante, who are going to document a lot of the process, and they'll be at the Boyer funeral and various Pentagon ceremony as well for the helicopter crash memorial. So they will be there. They're going to interview some family members, interview some people in Dpaa. They're also here to get coverage for our new Dpaa video, so you'll see them around. Please cooperate as much as you possibly can. Thank you.
They're not just names, they're not just ref nos, they're names. And those of us who have worked this issue for as many years as someone like myself or Mr. Webb or other people, we know the men, we know those men, we know those ref nos, we know the families. The families they're almost a part of us. I was very privileged earlier this week on Wednesday. Sergeant First Class Al Boyer was a U.S. Army Special Forces Mac V SOG, was lost in March of 1968. Judy, the sister, asked me to do the eulogy for her brother on this past Wednesday at Arlington National Cemetery. So, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back, but the friendships and the relationships that we have established with family members, it becomes very, very, very personal. So when we go into work every day, it's not just a job, because we know what we're doing, in a however small manner, it's contributing to try and get Al Boyer home. Now we've got to get the third man of that recon team that was lost, Greg Houston. We've got to get the other 1,617 guys who are still unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. But there's still that personal commitment, because what we do makes a difference. And people will say, this is the best job in government. It is the best job in government. With all its frustrations, and God knows there are a lot in this mission, but at the end of the day, when you go to Arlington and you see a funeral and you see someone has come home that's been missing in action, unaccounted for, and you see the reaction of the families, yes, there's sadness, but there's also, my love, my husband, my brother, whatever, he's home, he's on American soil. Mission accomplished. We did that.
There is no stronger support community for any missing Special Forces guy than Special Forces Association and Special Operations Association, unlike and more so than anybody I've ever seen. I talked with the 3-star general in charge of Special Forces just to thank him for the tremendous support that Special Forces personnel give to those that they lose.
I have no intentions of
My full name is Ann Mills Griffiths. I'm chairman of the board and CEO of the National League of POW MIA Families. I'm also, importantly, an MIA sister. My brother has been missing in action in Vietnam since September 21, 1966. 50 years this year.
Well, I imagine for redistribution through the internet.
Well, this year was different than any year we've had because General Milley, the Chief Staff of the Army, had known personally two lieutenant colonels, the outgoing and incoming commanders of our POW MIA detachments in Hanoi. And so he mentioned to Mr. Lennington his relationship with these two officers. And they were killed on April 7th, 2001 in a horrific helicopter accident. 7 Americans and 9 Vietnamese in that accident. It was tragic, that whole thing. For us, the families, the most horrific thing we could contemplate is that some of our fine young people serving in the military and working this issue would be killed looking for answers on our missing relatives. It was horrible. It was the most difficult thing that I think I've ever done, to talk about this in front of the families of those who were killed looking for our people. And this year's annual meeting, we had the opportunity, due to General Milley having committed to come and speak, he wanted to recognize those families. So we said, we absolutely agree. We will host them for the dinner. And they came to our annual dinner this year. It was a little convoluted, but we actually had General Milley read the names of all the Americans, but we also had, very importantly, the Vietnamese ambassador to the United States that I've known for years. And he agreed to read the names of the Vietnamese military officers who lost their lives that day. It was a major thing and very meaningful to him that he could participate in it, and I so appreciated his willingness to do so, because I knew the senior Vietnamese officer. I'd known him for years, Senior Colonel Tran Van Bien, and he was like an iconic figure in the Vietnamese government, and was the leader of the Vietnamese counterpart to our teams. So there's a long history even there with the Vietnamese.
You gotta read forward.
I just throw it out the window and just pick it up. Throw it out my car window.
And we always try to get people to have they have the opportunity for individual case file reviews of their own missing relative, where the case stands, what's the status, what's the plan for the future.
Now, the second thing I want to look at is less than a kilometer off the coast, and it's in such shallow water that the fishing.
So as the family members sign up to attend the league meeting, that information is passed to us. We in turn then find out which family members would request a one-on-one, and then we actually build a spreadsheet so that we make sure that we've got the analyst of personnel that are needed to talk to those individuals. We're not overcommitting. We want to be sure that the families have the time to talk to those individuals to get the information. But we go over all the details of their case, giving them the latest information, any work that we've done on their case, the results of the work that we've done, and if possible, if there's something scheduled for the future, when that will be scheduled, and what we will be doing. Earlier today, we were meeting with the sister of an individual who had been lost in a crash, an aircraft crash. We've been excavating the site. We haven't closed the site yet. We have found some material, but the site is not closed. We have more work to do on that site. One of the items that we did find was her brother's dog tag.
everything. Of course, you know, the final everything is him being returned and, you know, laid to rest in here in the United States. But this, I think this is more for me, you know, than, you know, it's all for us. He's in heaven and, you know, at peace, but we're still waiting for him to come home, I guess.
Needless to say, it was a very special event because that's the only thing that she has. She's been looking for all these years, and now finally she has something that she can actually hold that he was wearing at the time he was lost. And so a very special time.
The service secretaries, the Air Force Secretary, Army Secretary, and Navy Secretary, which obviously includes the Marine Corps, they host a luncheon, and that is so meaningful to families. It gives them that link with their own missing man service. And no matter who speaks or what happens, it is a link there that is a bond to them, and you have no idea how much that means to these families. League of Families has no parallel. There is no other organization. I hear people sometimes say that, well, organizations like the National League of Families. I have to tell you, there is no organization like ours.
I would be hard-pressed to find a more dedicated workforce anywhere in the United States government. Maybe some of the organizations that are on the forefront of the struggle against the terrorism, the entities that are protecting our homeland and everything, perhaps. But U.S. government writ large, I don't think you're going to find a more dedicated workforce. You have people that have devoted not just their careers, but their lives to this issue. People, for example, using Mr. Webb as an example, Vietnam veteran from Vietnam forward.
It re-energizes us as we meet with the families to see how important this is, to understand that the work that we do is so critical to these families. It's not just another job. We're trying to find answers about their loved ones. And I think as we meet with the families and see, you know, the years that they've been dedicated to this issue and trying to find as much information as they can about their loved ones, it re-energizes all of us to go out and work harder and try to do more, find answers for these families.
I know that this involves a lot of people. You know, like they said, it's been through a lot of hands to get here. And a lot of effort and work and years of waiting, and them, I understand what they're doing. And it's huge to me.
Our families have been coming to the League's annual meetings since 1970. They have seen things come and go. They have seen charlatans, BS artists. They've seen it all. They don't get false hopes. They're very realistic. From the beginning, the National League of Families was formed on the basis of the fullest possible accounting. To us, anytime you hear someone say, well, I'm determined we are going to have a full and complete accounting, you know it's empty rhetoric. In war, that's not possible. We, more than anybody else you'll ever meet, know that. So our families are so well informed in Vietnam War that they know, and they can listen to somebody and it's like, right, or this is a really good guy who knows what he's talking about. That's how much education the Vietnam War families have, largely because of the National League of Families, because we never went away.